When thinking of the most important players in the justice system, it is common to jump straight to individuals such as judges, prosecutors, and police investigators. However, there is one position that contains essentially unrestricted power to present to juries their own beliefs and assumptions about crime scene evidence as fact, often making them the pivotal witnesses in murder trials. This same power also allows them to indefinitely delay or completely undercut investigations into suspicious deaths that happen within their jurisdiction. The Department of Justice website defines the role of forensic scientists as to examine and analyze evidence from crime scenes and elsewhere to develop objective findings that can assist in the investigation and prosecution of perpetrators of crime or absolve an innocent person from suspicion. This series will delve into a few especially strange cases that were led by forensic examiner Dr. Erik K. Mitchell in order to illustrate the true power that this position holds. Erik Mitchell has had a long and turbulent career as a medical examiner, spanning over 3 decades in multiple states. During his career, he has made headlines for his controversial decisions and questionable ethics, the likes of which have caused many innocent people to be convicted for crimes they did not commit, as well as other cases where Mitchell's inefficiency and indecision has allowed for investigations to go cold, where Mitchell has either closed a case before an investigation played out, or waited too long to make a ruling about the death, and by the time he finally did, all of the leads had dried up, leaving the victim's family without closure. In many of these cases, the family is inevitably left wondering what really happened to their loved one, and since then have spent many years searching for answers. Derrick Heidt was a 22-year-old college student attending Ottawa University in the small town of Ottawa, Kansas. The Colorado native was an Eagle Scout and an avid fisherman who loved the outdoors. He was in his final year of school. One evening in 2006, his family back home in Colorado received a phone call from a frightened Derrick who believed that a car was following him. Whichever way he turned, the car followed. In an attempt to shake the suspicious vehicle, he made a number of turns down some back roads. Derrick was not familiar with the area and quickly got lost.
Derrick called his father panicked, saying someone was following him while he was driving near Pomona Lake.
While frantically trying to drive and lose the car tailing him, he called his parents to let them know what was going on. Due to the remote area and poor connection, the calls kept dropping. Derrick called his parents back 5 or 6 times. His parents pulled up maps and told him to take note of any landmarks he saw so they could try and get an idea of where he was. They determined he was in the area of Pomona Lake. His parents began to worry. Who could be following their son? Would anyone want to hurt him? One idea that crossed their minds was a group of 3 students who recently got arrested dealing drugs and suspected Derrick might have ratted them out.
Derrick told his parents former friends had been arrested on drug charges, and the rumor around town was he had turned them in.
We all know in the world today is if you turn somebody in for drug trafficking, that's the first thing that'll get you killed.
After the last call dropped, they never heard from him again. 16 hours after the Heidts last spoke to their son, they were notified that Derrick was dead. His body was found along the shore of the lake, about 50 feet away from his truck. His throat and nose were packed full of mud.
The Bear Creek High School graduate's body was found completely covered in mud, face down on the ground. He was near Pomona Lake, which is just outside Topeka, Kansas.
His body was covered in road rash, and there was dirt underneath his fingernails that did not match the dirt he was found laying in. The cause of death was asphyxiation from the mud in his throat and nose. Derrick's cell phone along with the jacket he was wearing that night were never found. He had no cash or debit cards on him when his body was discovered. His parents were alarmed to learn there had been 2 purchases made on Derrick's debit card after his death. Erik Mitchell did not find the death to be suspicious and did not believe foul play was involved. He labeled the death as accidental asphyxiation. Mitchell stated he believed Derrick Heidt was suffering from some sort of bipolar psychological breakdown. noting that Derrick had an unusually large amount of urine in his body, a sign which Mitchell interprets that Heidt was in a mental state of distress, saying, "There was no physical obstruction, nothing was affecting his bladder, it was a mental effect." Derrick's parents, Kevin and Debbie, disputed Mitchell's claims, saying that their son's issues never included paranoia or severe panic. They believe that Mitchell labeled the death as accidental too soon and accused the authorities of a botched investigation and cover-up. Derrick's truck was never processed by investigators or checked for fingerprints. His family hasn't gotten any consistent answers. Derrick's computer was taken by authorities and now it can't be found. And there were dozens of pages in Derrick's journal in the days leading up to his death that had been torn out, are now missing. The Heidt family hired a private pathologist, Deborah Johnson, who agreed that Derrick had died due to the mud blocking his throat, but disagreed that it was accidental.
But until a good investigation is done, I would consider it a homicide.
Johnson says there is no way Derrick could have ingested that much mud that far down his throat while conscious.
This would indicate the final minutes of the boy's life were either unconscious, so that he couldn't extract his mouth from it, or that he was forced to stay down and could not get up.
There is no dispute on that. It's from the mud found in his throat, Johnson said. The question is how it got there. It just does not fit. This is a suspicious death. Not only was Derrick an Eagle Scout and excellent swimmer, but if Derrick had fallen into the mud on his own power, then his cough reflex would have prevented the kind of mud build-up in his throat, Johnson noted. The Heidt family continued to press authorities with little luck, only speaking with the Kansas Bureau of Investigators after hiring a lawyer to put legal pressure on the case.
So we're just making sure everything's done that possibly can be done to answer the questions
Still,
here.
without a proper indication of foul play from the medical examiner, this case has gone cold, leaving the Heidt family without any sort of closure for their son. At the time of this video, no one has ever been charged in connection to Derrick Heidt's death, and the case has never been declared a homicide.
One of the individuals who was in question the day after Derrick's death showed up with a truck and a U-Haul trailer and moved. There's something wrong.
The Heidts know nothing they do will bring their beloved Derrick back, but they won't rest until they know what really happened.